my soul.
Hello Austin, my name is Randy White and I'm your local Austin realtor. Today we're going to do our January 2022 market report. There is a ton to talk about. The interest rates are taking off and the inventory is the lowest it's ever been. Awesome! Before we get started, if you wouldn't mind hitting subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already so that you're notified every week whenever I upload a new video. Okay, let's dig in. Let's kick it off here with a quote from Bill McBride over at Calculated Risk. It is possible that rising mortgage rates will slow the housing market, or the Fed might raise rates sooner than expected due to the recent pickup in inflation. But I believe one thing is certain, inventory will tell the tale. You know, ain't that the damn truth, right? Because there is so much speculation going on in the market right now, like, what's going on with mortgage rates? What's the Fed doing? How much is inflation going to go up? How crazy is Omicron? So much stuff that we don't know what's going to happen. So much speculation. So one thing that I can definitely be sure about is that this year, inventory will be the leading indicator of what happens with the real estate industry this year. All right, so I'm going to follow that up with some bad news, which is that listings are coming to a record low. Awesome. It is, no secret that over the last few years, our very low interest rates and people's desire to own a home and their sudden needs and changes of what they need in a home, causing them to hit the market, have just really depleted the housing supply. And I've covered that extensively in my previous videos, but the bottom line is there's no more houses. So let's take a look at a graph that I have showing that for year over year housing inventory. So what Realtor.com did here is they took a look at inventory in 2020 of December, and then they took a look at inventory of December 2021, and then they showed us what the difference was. So you can see that the national average is down about 27% year over year in inventory. Idaho up there, I don't know what's going on. They're up 55%, so that's the place to be if you're trying to buy a home right now. But the rest of the country you can see is just severely lacking compared to 2020. So what was supposed to be a pretty remarkable winter of real estate sales, we're going to really struggle to kind of see the full potential of that because you can't sell what you don't have. Am I right, people? So are you intending to sell a house this year? Let's get back out there and bring some inventory to the market. Let's take a look at another graph that I have to kind of just expand on this inventory issue. So this goes to January of 2019 and it shows months of inventory. At the front half of this graph, you can kind of see that inventory typically would cruise around at about 4 months. We're averaging about 4 months. And then we took the dip down there in 2020, December and January of 2020. Man, that was a fun time to be helping buyers out. And then we spiked back up during the lockdown of the pandemic. And then kind of have just been depleting from there ever since. A pretty common question going on right now is the current wave of Omicron going to affect real estate? And, the answer is yeah, it's definitely happening. Because in my previous couple of videos, I was talking about a very active, hot winter market. There was a lot of data showing that sellers were amping up to put their home on the market early, ready to go, and they're not here. And so that probably has a lot to do with the recent news of the Omicron spread. Now, I do not think that this is a long-term problem by any means, and you can kind of see that with how it went for 2020. The people do eventually come back and they just put a new plan in place of how to carry on. But it's certainly going to maybe wipe out what we were expecting to have in January and a little bit going into February. Okay, so let's switch over to talking about buyer activity. We just got done kind of reviewing sellers and listings and how the recent news is affecting that. So when it comes to buyers though, let me tell you what, they are not going to be held back. Those guys are still coming in way strong. Data shows that there are a ton of buyers out there, as always. So here we go. Some of the lowest inventory ever, and buyers are just still coming in hot. So let's see what this looks like on a graph. This is Showing Time. So this is the app that buyers use to schedule showings. I think it's a really good front end indicator of buyer activity, because if buyers aren't scheduling showings, then those showings aren't going to turn into contracts. So you can see that November 2021, which is the green bar, is higher than November 2020, the blue bar. So I just find it fascinating that with all of the news that we just got done discussing, the buyer demand still continues to push on. So what this actually proves and shows is a pretty big question that people are having, which is what's happening with the real estate market? Is it slowing down? And the answer is no, because we are continuing to just crush those pre-pandemic numbers as far as buyer activity goes. So when a house gets listed, there is a line of buyers out there ready, willing, and able to submit very aggressive offers, and that in turn continues to have our home price appreciation just climb and climb and climb. So real estate market is not slowing down, and it has everything to do with the very intense buyer demand that is super present. Michael Lane, the VP and General Manager at ShowingTime, has a pretty good quote on this. He says, "Showings traditionally lag during the holiday season, but the data we're seeing tells us that buyer demand remains strong. The fact that every region showed a year-over-year increase indicates that buyers are undeterred, and it speaks to their desire to keep searching for their next home." So no doubt the buyers are out there and they are in force, right? So it's whether it's because of the rising mortgage interest rates, and so they're having like a FOMO situation and they want to make sure to lock in a rate in a house before that continues to rise, or they continue to have shifts and changes in their life and they need to have their home reflect that. Whatever the case may be, the buyers are definitely out there. That activity is super hot, and that continues to have the real estate market shooting off. So, ultimately we talked about that leading indicator of showings being an important thing to watch of the strength of the market, because those showings turn into contracts, and those contracts turn into pending deals. So I have another graph here to show you that, while we do have this struggle of low inventory, we continue to outpace those pre-pandemic numbers shown there in the gray of contracts, of pending sales. So we are dropping a little bit from 2020, but 2021 is still beating pre-pandemic numbers. So the demand is there, and that matters because that keeps our market moving. We just really need the listings to also continue. All right, so we got through the scary parts of what's going on in the market and the frustrating parts. Let's talk about some positives here, some opportunities. If you own a home right now, you have gained crazy amounts of equity. Do you have some things that you need to do with that equity, whether it be moving up and responding to some additional needs that you need out of your home, or perhaps you're going to retire soon and need to downsize? Lots of different things that you can do with this sudden gain of equity that you've made because of all the amazing appreciation that homeowners have made in the last year, and that I do believe you will make again this year. CoreLogic's Equity Home Report showed in the third quarter that the average mortgage holder gained an equity of $57,000. Dang. I mean, that's more than a lot of people's salary. $57,000 was the average gain in equity for a homeowner in the US. Other ways of looking at this data, 31.1% increase in equity for US homeowners with mortgages, or a grand total of $3.2 trillion for US homeowners of equity gain. So seriously, congratulations to all homeowners in this very long, strange couple of years in the pandemic, that this is a great shining star in what can feel rather dark sometimes as we move through the pandemic. This has really provided a lot of opportunities to homeowners out there that were maybe in trouble or had ideas or projects or needs, and this equity has just really lifted us up in a way that we never thought could have happened to begin with. I got this neat map here that lets you take a look at, what that is state by state for the whole country, because the 56,700 equity growth is just the national average. I mean, there's those crazy fools over there on the West Coast, like in California. Their average was $119,000 for equity growth. I mean, come on. A report came out a few months ago that said it is cheaper to own a home than it is to rent whenever you consider what is happening with this equity growth. In every major city, it is cheaper to own a home than it is to rent whenever you consider the equity growth. Yes, it was worth repeating. So that is a serious thing to realize and consider of what is going on right now, because it's not just home prices that are skyrocketing, it's the rents too. So if you are figuring out where you need to be, even though it is really nuts out there for a buyer, there are some interesting and valid points to be made of still trying to get in this race. I have a quote from Frank Martell at CoreLogic, and it says, "Not only have equity gains helped homeowners more seamlessly transition out of forbearance and avoid a distressed sale, but they have also enabled many to continue building wealth." On top of that, Odetta Cushy, the deputy chief economist at First American, says, U.S. households own $36.8 trillion in owner-occupied real estate, $11.5 trillion in debt, and the remaining $25 trillion in equity. In inflated adjusted terms, homeowners had an average of $294,000 in equity in Q3 2021, a historical high. What that is basically saying is that the average homeowner has $294,000 in equity. That is unreal, and it's exciting, and it's just a great opportunity for all homeowners out there to realize and understand what the power of their homeownership has done for them this year. Let's move over and talk about interest rates for a quick minute. So this is the predictions from the experts out there. I am in no way saying that this is absolutely what's going to happen. That would be a total fool's game to expect that I could do that. It is a really volatile space out there right now. So all we can do is try to trust what the experts are dishing out to us and maybe kind of wrap it up to what the average might be. And I would say a safe way to play is assume that by the second half of the year, we're looking at an average of 3.5% to 4%. The number of mortgages in forbearance is officially under 1 million. So I do believe that this is, beginning into this year, going to become a total non-issue, non-message. We're not going to hear about it anymore. It's about 890,000 mortgages left in forbearance. That represents about 1.6% of active mortgages. And the people that are coming out of forbearance, roughly 4 out of every 5 of those people have worked out some sort of payment plan or have paid off their back payments. And you know what we can really attribute this to is the $57,000 average of equity gain that we just got done talking about. So there's solutions out there for homeowners to resolve this problem because of the massive equity gains. McClare Bolton Smith from CoreLogic says, we may see a little bit of an uptick in foreclosure rates in 2022. Just an uptick though, from an extraordinarily low level. We're not expecting to see a big increase. We expect delinquency rates overall on home mortgages to actually continue to remain quite low. I strongly believe that just like with forbearances, the foreclosures are just going to be a non-issue this year. There's way too many options out there for homeowners with all the equity gains that they had. I don't see banks really being in a position to foreclose on people whenever there are so many ways to work out deals and to come to a conclusion. The numbers are just simply not there like they were for the last housing crisis. Okay, so the last thing we're going to talk about is home price appreciation. Has it peaked or has it plateaued? So I got a graph here that shows FHA, CoreLogic, and Case-Shiller and how they have recorded the numbers of year-over-year appreciation. And it's going from 2020 to 2021. And you can see that we start off with record high appreciation at 10%, and then each month thereafter, the home price appreciation just continued to climb and climb and climb. And then we end up here where we're wondering, has it peaked or, I beg the question, plateaued? So honestly, everybody wants to know what's going to go on with prices over the next year, experts included. So I can definitely tell you what I don't think is going to happen. I do not think that we're going to suddenly drop from this 18-19% down to 5%. I don't think that's going to happen overnight. What I do know is going to happen is that experts are updating their projections to go ahead and have the home price appreciation stay at a higher pace than what they were previously predicting a month or so ago. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that the inventory continues to decline while the buyer demand continues to be very intense. And another thing to realize and understand is that although you are seeing these lines kind of plateau and eventually start to dip, that is not depreciation. That is decelerating appreciation. So as a homeowner, month over month, year over year, appreciation is cumulative. Your equity is still kicking ass, and we are still rocking and rolling as homeowners. All right, guys, that wraps it up, our January 2022 market report. It was a long video. There's a lot of news going on. Thanks for hanging in there with me, and if you wouldn't mind hitting subscribe to my channel so that you get notified each week as I upload a new video about the real estate market or about Austin, Texas. If you're going to consider buying or selling this year, I am a realtor here in Austin, Texas, and I would love to guide you through that process. Give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email. My website is randywhiteatx.com, and I would love to be your realtor. It is a total pleasure doing these videos for you guys, and I will see you next week.
Well, I'm going down to Austin, Texas. I'm going down to save my soul.